In an attempt to store food for days of scarcity, a swarm of honeybee colonies go in search of pollen and nectar, which they keep in hexagonal combs they build in their beehives. With the study of how these bees cohabit, Marino, a young apiarist, or mostly called beekeeper, builds hives for bees to make their home and produce honey.
I am Marino Inyan Isuman. I do beekeeping. I did agribusiness management, and in first year we studied a course called apiculture, which is the keeping of bees and then processing and harvesting of bee products.
From curiosity on how bees make honey to enthusiasm on keeping bees, the young apiarist Marino is now well versed with beekeeping.
Before the course started, I had learned that bees could be kept, and the idea that bees could be kept was an interesting thing to me because, you know, there's this notion that bees are very dangerous, they can sting you to death and all. And so I was much interested on how these dangerous bees could be kept. So I took keen attention to the course, and then I really liked it. After the course, I started working towards getting the farm and practicing what was taught in class. I also wanted to experience how bees could be kept and also make money, and that is how my journey started. I'm from Central region, and the part where I stay, honey is not that common. We barely eat honey. I attended SHS at Breman Ezekuma Senior High in Central region. And over there, I studied general science. And at that time, the truth is I had no passion for agriculture until I applied for K University, and then I chose agribusiness management because my dad recommended it and my elder brother too also recommended it. So after getting it, I got to know that it wasn't a bad choice. I realized that agriculture is something that will never be obsolete. The gold is in agric. So I found the opportunity in agric. I embraced it, and after that, I wanted to find something to start practicing in agriculture. So after we studied apiculture, I was like, wow, there is something that I'm going to choose, I'm going to do. And then now I'm in agriculture, and I'm happy I did agribusiness management because in the program we got to learn the business aspects of agriculture. We got to learn that agriculture is not just a mere work, we can treat it as a business.
Being a student of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, comes with the benefits of access to land at the KNUST Agric Station in Ahomaso in the Ashanti region. With available land, all Marilo needed was to acquire a hive to start keeping bees.
I got some amount of money, and then I bought 3 hives. After that, I had to get a land. I was a K University student by then, so I went to the K University Agricultural Research Station. I learned that if any student wants to have a project or any alumni want to have a project on any part of the farmland, they give the land for free. So I went to the technician, I talked to him, he agreed, and then he asked me to find a suitable place to have my farm. From there, I installed my hives, and that's how my journey started. Before you start a bee farm, first you will need a farmland, and then the farmland should be a place where there's availability of water, and flowering plants are also there for the bees to pick nectar from all the time. Over here we have orange orchard at some place. We have oil palm too at some of the places. So I found here the right place to have my bee farm.
It's important to also consider the direction of sunlight, presence of windbreaks, availability of shades, enough spacing between hives, perfect height for easy inspection, placing the hives away from entrances, making the hives easily accessible, and predators.
Our main asset is the hive, the beehive. You have to get something to keep your bees in. So you need your hive. So I got the hives too. We have several types of hives, and I'm using the Kenyan top bar hive system. That is what Africa we usually use. So we have top bar hives, we have transition hives, we have frame hives, we have Langstroth hive. The Langstroth hives are used at the temperate areas, and then over here we use either the top bar hives or the frame hives. The top bar hives, we have the Kenyan top bar hives and the Tanzanian top bar hives. You see that the Kenyan top bar hives, for that one the bottom slants downwards, and then the Tanzanian top bar hive, unlike the Kenyan top bar hives, it's like a rectangular box. And then we have the frame hives. So the top bar hives use top bars, then the frame hives use frames.
Before the invention of beehives, swarming honeybees built their hives in hollowed out stumps and fallen logs, which had to be eventually destroyed by humans in order to harvest honey. About 2,000 years ago, the first artificial beehive, called the skeps, made from baked clay or woven straw, was built. Similar to the natural beehives, skeps also needed to be destroyed to harvest honey. With apiaries looking for a solution to harvesting bee honey without destroying the beehives, wooden beehives were introduced in the 18th century. In the 19th century, however, Lorenzo Langstroth, an avid apiarist credited with revolutionizing modern beekeeping, built the Langstroth hives.
So after you install the hives, you have to prepare the hives so that you get your bees. You use baits. So like when a fisherman uses a line and then a hook for catching fishes, he uses baits like those worms to trap the fishes into it. Likewise in beekeeping too, we use baits. We apply scented chemicals into the hive to attract the bees in them.
Honeybees are social insects. They live together in large, well-organized family groups. Communication, complex nest construction, environmental control, defense, and division of labor amongst the worker bees, drone bees, and the queen are some of the attributes that enables honeybees to exist successfully in colonies.
The bees have divisions. They have scout bees. So these scout bees go out inspecting for suitable places, and then when it finds your hive convenient for the colony, then it goes back to call the colony and then they come and stay in. So some of the things you can use as bait are beeswax. You can use honey as your bait. You can use sugar. You can use cassava powder, what we call kokonte locally, and then you can use cow dung too. You can use lime. We have a grass called lavender grass. You can use that one too. So I used a beeswax, and then at a point I used lavender grass, and then I used lime too. Some of the baits have persistent smell over some, so there are some that you have to be applying maybe weekly. Some like wax like this, it can be in the hive for a longer time without its scent getting lost. So I use wax, and then I use lime. I use the wax on the top bars to draw a line on the top bars to tell the bees where they should build their combs. Sometimes the bees will enter the hive and they will build the combs anyhow. If they do that, it makes inspection very difficult and sometimes impossible. And I use the wax also to smoothen the hives. When the bees come to stay in the hive and the hive isn't smooth, they will devote a lot of their time into smoothing their hives with something called propolis. You may not want the bees to use the time that they will be using collecting honey and all into just smoothing the hives. So I use the wax at the place inside the hives that were not smooth, and then I use some at the entrances too. If you want to catch the bees faster, you may consider adding another thing. So that's why I use the lime, and then the lime I added sugar, and then I use it to bait my hives. I smeared the inside of the hives with the lime juice. And then at some point too, I used a lavender grass because I got to know there's some available here. So I went for some and then I use it on the hive. So after baiting, I used to come here occasionally to inspect the hive to check if bees had come in or if there are pests in the hive, avoiding the bees to come in.
After all the effort in setting up your beehive, patience becomes the only virtue you would need to hold on to whilst you wait for your hive to be colonized. For Apiarist Marino, his patience took a stretch of 3 months, within which he would need to inspect the hives frequently.
The time for colonization depends on your area. There's a place where rain falls most of the time, so colonization is a bit difficult. So over here, it took me 3 months for me to see my hives getting colonized. So when the hive is overly populated and you check the hive and you see that the bees will be swarming soon, you divide your hive so that some will be in another empty hive and then some in the old hive. You can do that to get a lot of bees. And then you can also capture a swarm. When you see a bee swarm on a tree or in a wall or something, you can go capture them into your empty hive. We have a technical way of doing that.
Honeybees that recently split off from a strong mother colony to start a new hive is what is referred to as a swarm. Honeybee colonies use swarming as a natural method to reproduce by replacing the old queen, who swarms with about half the worker bees and as much honey as they can get. Swarms mostly land on any available structure near their original home, with the scout bees leaving in search of a new hive location to make their home. At this stage, swarms can be captured by an apiarist to populate a new hive.
You can also buy bees from other beekeepers too. That is also another way to get bees. But me, when I started, there were no beekeepers around to buy bees from. I had no hives already that there were bees in. I didn't discover any swarm, so I used the baiting method. That is called voluntary colonization method, and waited so the bees come and stay in the hive. The harvesting season actually starts from October to the following year, March, April, and probably June. I installed my hives in October and the bees came in December, January there. So I had to wait till the harvesting season before I make a harvest. Some places have 2 harvesting seasons a year, but over here the harvesting season is once a year.
The making of honeybees begins with the worker bees, who are female bees not capable of reproducing. They are shorter and more slender than the drone bees and the queen. Their job is mostly housekeeping, feeding the queen, drones and larvae, collecting pollen and nectar and storing it in their stomach without digesting it. They also make beeswax.
Some of the duties of the workers are to go for forages. I mean nectar, pollen, sometimes propolis, and even water. They fly to flowers, they pick the nectar, they bring the nectar into the hives. Other bees will take them and then keep them in the bee combs.
The worker bees are also called forager bees, who take the ingested nectar back to the entrance of the hive and regurgitate it into the crop, which is also called the bee stomach of a processor bee, also called a ventilator bee. The forager bee returns for more nectar, whilst the ventilator bee takes the nectar to the honeycomb, regurgitating the nectar into the hexagonal wax cells.
The nectar has a higher proportion of water, or 80% of water. So what they do is they fan to evaporate some of the water. There are some of the bees, they are called ventilators. They will always be fanning the hive to cool the hive down and to evaporate some of the water from the nectar, and then they inject an acid into it to turn the nectar into honey. That's how can we get that thick honey.
Invertase is an enzyme the ventilator bees releases into the nectar in the process of regurgitating the nectar into the hexagonal wax cells, and it takes as many loads of nectar to fill a single hexagonal wax cell.
So when the honey is ripe, they seal the comb in which the honey is. So we have capped bee combs. Those are the ones that the honey in are mature, and so you can harvest. The unsealed ones are not mature enough. When you harvest, you see that they are thin, they are not that thick, and they are watery. So when you're a beekeeper, you don't harvest that kind of honey. That honey needs more work to get mature for harvesting. So this is how bees make their honey. Actually, when I started, I didn't get someone to walk me through the practical thing, so I should have waited for maybe March. It was later that I discovered that March was the time that the bees could have made huge amounts of honey. But I harvested in January, so the harvest was small initially, but subsequently I started harvesting in March. So now I harvest from March going. That's where the bees have made huge sums of honey, ripe honey. And so in my first harvest, I got about 10 liters of honey.
Laying 2,000 eggs a day, approximately 1 egg every 43 seconds, is the responsibility of a queen bee in a beehive. A queen bee is made by the worker bees by feeding a fertilized egg with royal jelly, a substance secreted from a gland in the head of a worker bee. A handful of queens are made using this process, and the first queen to hatch finds the unhatched queens and kills them to become the queen bee.
So we have a section of the workers that minister to the queen. So they will bath the queen. If the queen needs food, they will feed the queen. Then we have some who also nurse the broods and the young ones. The broods are the smaller ones, the larvae, the pupae. So when they also need food, we have some of the workers who feed them. We have cleaners too. If there are particles in the hives that are not clean, they clean the hives, the combs, everything.
Honeycombs are one of nature's most amazing creations. Beautiful in the simplicity of their design, they are one of the most efficient and flexible structures possible for brood raising and food storage.
For the combs, we have ones that they keep honey in. We have one that they keep the broods in. Yeah, they have one that they store pollen in, and then they have empty combs. So the broods, they cover them, they cap the combs. Whilst the broods are in, they cap them to give them warmth. And then the honey too, when it's mature, they seal the honey.
In every compartment of the comb, the queen bee lays an egg. This egg grows into a larvae and consumes the honey deposited in the hexagonal space.
Today is an inspection day. I'm coming to inspect the hives, check which ones that pests are troubling them, which ones that maybe the queen is not active anymore or something. I'm coming to check the conditions of the hive, the well-being of the bees, how they are doing, are they progressing or what. That is what I'm coming to do. I have to do so with my bee suit. You know, bees sting and their sting is painful, very painful. So I'm here with my bee suits. I came with my smoker, which I'll use to puff smoke on them.
Inspecting a beehive is the process of systematically smoking and removing each box until you reach the bottom of the layer. Then carefully inspecting the frames inside the boxes and noting what you see before reassembling the hive.
Here's my smoker. I will fuel it and then I'll puff smoke on the bees. And then there's my veil. I'll have it on, all for protection against the bee stings. Bees don't know their owner. Whoever goes close to them, they see him or her as a danger. And the more they sting you too, the more they die. And a beekeeper will not like all his bees to die because they stung him or so I have to prevent that.
In trying to set itself free after stinging a mammal, a bee unknowingly rips parts of its abdomen and internal organs attached to the skin of the mammal. This is what causes the bee to die shortly after.
I am coming to fuel the smoker. So this is what I use as fuel. I use this wood shavings, and then these are called inflorescence from the oil palm tree.
Other materials that makes for good bee smoker fuel are dried materials with high oil content. The oil keeps the smoke billowing and stops the material from burning too quickly.
So this catches fire earlier, and this also holds the smoke. The purpose of the smoke is to calm the bees down. So when you approach the hive, you first smoke the entrance, and you see that the bees at the entrance will move inwards. You later move around the hive. You smoke around the hive for bees that are outside to also enter. When you approach the hive, the bees, they have guard bees. So these bees will tell the colony that there is danger, so they should be ready for attack. So you see a lot of the bees coming out to pounce on you. In communicating to the other bees that there is danger, they release some pheromone, and that pheromone tells the bees that there is danger, so they should come and then attack. So when we use the smoke, it marks the pheromone so that the bees are not able to smell them. And they will smell, but it will be minimal. So it blocks their communication. But when we smoke too, the bees see it as like there's a fire in the colony, so they will react like they are going to abscond from the hive. In doing that, they will consume honey, and that will make their belly full. And in that state, it becomes difficult for them to bend and sting you. The stinger is attached to their abdomen. This is how we use the smoker to calm the bees, so I will be able to work on them. This part is called the below. This is called the fire chamber, where you place the fuel in. This is called the nozzle. The nozzle. So the nozzle helps us to direct the smoker to where we want the smoke to go. After setting the smoker, I dress up and then I go to the hive that I want to work with. So I'm just having on my gloves, then I'm down. And so I'll use this knife on the hive. I'll knock on the hives, and then the sound will tell me either they made honey at a part or not. Yeah, so the idea is that the empty side will make most noise. The part that is full will make a lesser noise. So I'll use the knife to, and then in case I'm doing harvesting, I'll use the knife to cut the combs. Yeah, so let's go. These things are helpful, so when they sting me, I use that as a motivation and I still carry on. I know that these things serve as immunity against arthritis and rheumatism. And aside that, they trigger some reactions in your body that fight against some ailments. So if you want to go into beekeeping too, I have to psych up your mind that a bee sting is inevitable. The bees will sting you.
To venture into an agribusiness, knowing very well that you stand being attacked by the very insects you want to keep, is quite daring and adventurous and qualifies you to be a member of the Stubborn Academy. Stubborn Academy member Apiaris Marino wears his membership badge so proudly as he goes on to build and keep 17 beehives in 5 years.
So I started in 2019 with the 3 hives. I had it in mind I will scale up eventually. So when I started getting money, I used to enlarge the farm. So now over here, I have 8 hives, and then I have 9 hives in central region, agribusiness. I started that one during the COVID period.
Bee honey is one agribusiness product that is shrouded in a lot of mistrust, and there is the fear of purchasing an adulterated bee honey. With Marino's marketing strategy of posting his beekeeping activities on his social media handles, he inadvertently gained the trust he needed to sell pure unadulterated honey to consumers.
When I got the bees, I started posting on my WhatsApp status the behind the scenes of my activities, and also people already got interested and they were asking of my honey. So after I harvested, I just made known to them that I've got the honey, so now I can provide them some. So that is how I made my first sales. People also refer me to some buyers, and then they come and buy. That's how I've been making my sales.
Apart from honey, bees make other products such as beeswax, propolis, royaljelly, venom.
I sell not only honey, bees make wax too, which is also very expensive and highly demanded. We have other products like beepollen, which is also a superfood for humans. The bees actually make the bee pollens to feed on them, but they are nutritious to us too, so we also consume. Me as a beekeeper, I harvest and then I eat. And then we have propolis too, which can be sold, and then royaljelly, also another bee product. I've not met customers yet, so for those products I don't sell, but maybe as time progresses I'll discover some markets for them.
Agripreneurship will definitely bring in the cash. No matter how small it may be, it can take care of some bills.
So it's been worth it, because while I was in school, financially I wasn't that stable, and that helped me when I make harvests and then sell honey, I get some money to pay some of my school bills, and also it's really helped me. So you can reach out to me if you want to buy raw honey or wax, and then if you want me to help you set up your bee farm too, I can help you with my experience and everything. If you want training, I can help you. If you want to maybe start your farm, you need beehives, bee suits, everything, I can help you get all of them. My arms are open to anyone who comes to me for help.